fake having a cough. She gets some sometimes. Yeah. She's an alcoholic.
Well, if you get to, if you
Just kidding, in case I made it on there.
if you look at NyQuil, that's basically the.
That's
basically the. But I tell you, you get the feeling sometimes you feel so bad, you got to do something.
I want you to get up there next Sunday and be like, we're moving away from Joseph. I've got an important standalone message for y'all. If you're a true Baptist, you should never touch cough syrup. How dare you? You call yourself a teetotaler.
Well, there was an old man that worked for my dad. I grew up with, knew him all my life. He said when he was a little boy, he got double pneumonia so bad that the doctors didn't expect him to live. And the only thing they had back in his day is give him a teaspoon full of, whiskey every couple of hours or every hour, give him one. He said it was the only thing that cut it loose and and got him through. So, I mean, it was, anything in excess. And when I come to that, I come to alcohol, I'd say wisdom and witness are the most important things. But now if you're, Paul told Timothy, take a little wine for your stomach's sake.
Medicinally.
Yes. So.
Only on days that end in Y.
Yep. But anyway, that's another issue for another day.
So we started with I Love Lucy. You mentioned the Andy Griffith yesterday. Now that's an episode that I haven't seen, the one where they're going to eat and the guy's like, I need meat.
Oh gosh, have you not seen that one?
No, I haven't seen
when
that
the Darlings come to the house for supper because they were thrown out of the restaurant, I think, because he wanted to sit in there and watch the cook his food. And of course he said, can I go and watch, Aunt B cooking? And he came out and he said, that's the cleanest woman I have ever seen. It's it's rich. It's just rich.
I need to watch that one.
Oh,
Dylan, get a link for that episode on my desk immediately.
The Dillards. The Dillards are the ones who are the sons.
Oh, okay.
They were the old bluegrass music group, and they played the sons of Briscoe Darling.
Is that? Oh, okay. Now I remember the one. What was the one Andy Griffith episode where they're like either they're making moonshine or they're being too loud, and there's the whole band, and every time Andy knocks on the door, it just goes back to the one guy blowing on the jug because they're hiding.
Yeah, he's up in the hotel, the Mayberry Hotel there, and they're all slipping in there because they're in town for Charlene's wedding or something.
I can't believe how well you remember.
And he brings them all up. They all climb up the window and get in the room, and they start practicing. And oh gosh, it is just. They don't make TV like that.
No,
you know why?
Don't.
Because you have to actually sit around and think about stuff. Today it's just zipping off, curse words and innuendo and.
Well, it's amazing today how much TV there is. Back then,
you're right.
There's only 3 channels back then.
Yeah. Debbie, we were talking last night because she's down at the beach, and she said, I'm not even watching TV. I'm reading. She said, anyway, she said, I started watching this, and I couldn't watch it. And I started watching that, and I couldn't watch it. And I got to think, she said it was just no good. And I thought, they're ripping out all of these Netflix and Hulu and all of these shows, movies, and they're making, 3 seasons of it, whatever. Man, they're just writing stuff to be writing stuff.
Well, it's also, like you said, the lowest common denominator.
Yep.
Sex sells, like the raunchy stuff sells, so they just put as much of that out there as they can. And then I know that there's like this phenomenon, I don't really understand this, but like where people just like will turn it on and leave it on, and Netflix will just keep auto playing, and they don't even need to follow the whole thing. It's just like this it's almost like a podcast. It's like white noise.
We're so used to that. Yes, we're so used to that playing in the background all the time.
I can't do that. I don't know if I'm still too sensitized, but like if there's a TV on, I have to put my back to it if I'm going to focus on anything else.
I'm kind of the same way.
I
every once in a while, I will put on some classical music while I'm studying, and that's very low.
Yeah.
I can study through that, but I enjoy that. I like that, but I don't do it all the time. because even that can get distracting.
Yeah, I've done that before too, just with different kind of instrumental music. If it has singing in it, I can't do it. And you know, this might be weird. People send me stuff all the time. Hey, you should listen through this while you work. You know, I'm like, I can't do that. Like, if I'm going to listen to it, I have to sit here and listen to it and think about it. You know,
I'm pretty much the same way.
I don't. Well, that's.
Because I'll get to listening to music and I start thinking, what are they saying? What are they, you know, you remember that old, who was in the disco era? The
Bee Gees?
The Bee Gees, you know. All I could think, you know, you get something like that, bald-headed woman, that's all I thought that's what they were saying. You know, more than a woman now, I know, but I thought they were saying bald-headed woman. And I'm thinking, what is this English group singing here? Yeah.
You know, the worst is when you're like, when you think there's no way that they can be saying that in a song, and then you look it up like, no, that's actually what it is. That's the Aerosmith dude looks like a lady. I'm like, that's not what they're saying.
Yeah.
Oh wait, it is. That's funny. Aerosmith, it's like that's the most popular band ever to not have a #1 song. But they're like the ones that
you're a kid, and I never knew that.
They've like sold the most records of any band without a #1 song. Isn't that interesting?
Well, you know. The two, you know, Aerosmith and Mick Jagger, lips.
Yes.
That's all.
That's
all you got. Just
the biggest
lips.
mouth possible. I think about that every time our new baby like opens her mouth to cry, because you know babies like their mouth takes up their whole face when they cry. It's so funny.
Oh golly.
Well, this is fun. It's good to see you.
It's good to be.
We're back. We're back. Yeah.
Back in the saddle. Normal, natural routine.
Did we take a week off? We took a week off,
We took at least a week off.
Yeah, we took a week off. You went down to Florida
to see the grandkids.
Now, you said something yesterday. You left Debbie there for another 2 weeks, which is good. She's down there being honey for another couple of weeks. But then you solicited yesterday for people to bring you pies and
well,
cakes.
you know, I'd bring you this, but I know you know.
Has it started to roll in yet?
Huh?
Have people started to bring you stuff? It's going to happen.
Well, no, I've got a couple of invitations to go eat. But,
Okay.
You know, I woke up this morning, there were no pies and cakes on my doorstep, so I just went in and cried. But I said, look, you got 2 weeks. I can eat. Nobody will know. Of course, she's FaceTiming me now every time she calls.
Yeah, every
I want to see what you're doing. Well,
Yeah,
I'm
just
not
sitting in
eating anything.
I'm sitting in the recliner.
Yeah,
And just,
I've got these 2 dogs now that I have.
She left the dogs with
Yes,
you.
and I want to tell you, at 4:30 this morning, just about the time I wake up and get ready to go, I wake up, that blooming little dog of hers has come up on the pillow and has curled up next to my head with its mouth and nose right in my ear.
And it's just breathing into it. Yeah.
I thought, I am going to throw you across this room. Then I thought, no.
Probably shouldn't do that.
You know, I'll have to explain that to Debbie. But and you can't get it to move. I mean, it is an unmovable object when they plop down. So I got up. I said, there's no way.
So you wouldn't recommend these dogs as therapy dogs, is what you're saying?
No, I would recommend them if you want to have, if you love frustration and aggravation, then I got 2 dogs for you.
Excellent. So, okay. So you're just going to give them away while Debbie's. That could be pretty.
I'd love to be able to ship them down there to her.
Yeah, that would be nice. Because you were free and clear. You had 2 weeks by yourself, no responsibility, and then she left it up. She probably put cameras on those dogs.
She does have a camera in there. Yeah, she does. So I have to think that's like at my opening illustration yesterday. You have to watch what you're doing when when you're facing yourself, looking at yourself, being watched.
Now that was a really good illustration because you connected that to being, you connected it to being in church. Like if you're in church, you're hearing the word. Go ahead.
It's James says
Yes,
the
James
Word of God
1.
is a mirror. You look into it and you see who you actually are, which I thought was a good point. I mean, I didn't just skip to this passage. This was the next passage, and I thought this is exactly what's happening. They stand before Joseph. They don't know it's Joseph, but essentially they're looking in a mirror at themselves when they stand before him.
Yeah, they're seeing their sin. Like this is the result of their past sin.
And this Sunday, they come to that.
Oh, they finally get to the reveal this Sunday?
They get, I'm not going to reveal all about the message, but
No,
they
don't do
get
that.
to the point. And the one who gets to it, it's amazing. There's so much here that is just speaks of the New Testament. It is amazing to me. I don't know how people pick this up and read this and cannot see it as the Word of God, and that even in the beginning, in the book of Genesis, I mean, it becomes clear. There's a Messiah coming, and this is the way he's going to do this and that.
Well,
because one of these brothers is going to stand up for Benjamin. By the way, why did Joseph give Benjamin, I didn't say this yesterday, but I'm going to come back to it, and this will kind of be in the opening part. Why did Joseph give Benjamin 5 times as much food?
Is this rhetorical, or you want me to try to
No,
answer it?
well, for anybody, not you. You know, I don't want to put you on the spot, but why did he do it? Now you think about that for the next week. So let me just leave it like that.
Okay, I won't say
Why
anything.
did he do that? There was a reason behind it, and it's pretty fascinating to me.
Well, there are so many ways that Joseph is a type of Christ.
Oh, my stars.
You know,
It just is unreal.
he's rejected by men, right? He
Yep.
comes back from the dead, in a
Yep.
sense, right? You know, that's one way.
Well, listen to this, and I didn't even make Julie came out. McGuffey
Yeah.
came out. Of course, she's a brilliant
So
lady.
smart. Yeah.
She came out and she says, "Oh my goodness, I saw, the parable of the prodigal son. When Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to his house steward, 'Bring the men into
I
the
thought
house,
the same
slay an
thing.
animal, and make ready for them.'" What does that sound like?
Yeah, it sounds like prodigal
The
son.
boy is home.
Fatted calf.
Kill the fatted calf.
Yeah.
There's so much in it. Now, you don't want to overpush that because you begin to allegorize. But now there are a lot of connections here.
Well, and the biggest connection was, and you spent a good amount of time on this, was Joseph, the way he's serving the tables, and
Yes.
the way that
Yeah.
connects to Christ. And the more that I see how Joseph is a type of Christ, the more significant it is to me that you have that the earthly father of Christ's name is Joseph.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can see him coming in the line of Joseph, so to speak, as well. Like it's right
Yeah.
on the nose there.
That was a point I meant to make on Christmas Eve, but I did not go into this Joseph part in the Old Testament. So I thought, well, I'd have to explain too much to make the connection between the two.
What?
However,
Yeah, go ahead.
well, I forgot what I was going to say.
Oh, okay.
You'll do that when you get my age.
Yeah, no, I know how hard it is to keep the train of thought going when you got me over here just poking and prodding the entire time. Another Christ type, like there's another point of Christology with talking about Joseph, thinking back to the dreams, right?
Yeah.
Like that all of that the moon and the stars bowed down. I thought that was really interesting as well. Like thinking about. Like that's literally what happens with
they do.
Christ. Literally what happens with Christ. He's over all of these things.
Well, it will be in the second
Right.
in the second coming when Christ comes. Every knee will bow and every tongue, just as all of these folks, even the Egyptians, would bow. If Joseph had gone out, they would all bow to him.
Well, and speaking of bowing, you talked about Joseph's servant, and you made a really convincing argument that the servant has been converted.
Oh,
that
man, I
Joseph
believe
is
so.
sharing the gospel in the
I don't have
workplace.
any direct revelation about that, but there are just too many things about this and this guy that just speaks of it to me. Plus, beyond that, Joseph always was setting a godly example
Right.
and a witness
Yes.
about his God
Clear witness.
before everybody he came in contact with.
Well, and that's so convicting. That was one of the most convicting things that you see. You could hear it just kind of rumble through the congregation. Like, are the people in your workplace, especially the people that work for you,
Yeah.
do they know
Yeah.
where you stand?
Yeah, and I have to go back to my dad on that. I grew up in a family business. He had a furniture company, and everybody that worked for him, he witnessed to.
Yeah.
He brought them in, sat them down, shared Christ with them. And of course, I can remember scores of times just walking in the store early morning, and Daddy always would be at his desk with his Bible having his morning devotional before business got started. But all the employees would go by, they would see the same thing that I saw.
And they
But
knew
he-
him as a man of integrity,
Yes, honesty.
fixture
Yeah.
in the community
Yeah.
in that way. That's the way it should be. You know, that's
Yeah.
the kind of witness
Yeah.
that I pray
He
we
had
can
such an incredible witness just as a businessman.
have. That's really neat.
Yeah,
So,
that's my example.
and so we see that example in Joseph as well.
Yeah.
You know, the
Yeah.
people, and that had to have been bewildering for these Hebrew men that are coming in. They're like, why is this Egyptian talking with respect towards Elohim, you know, towards
Yeah.
Yahweh? And
But
that
they
way?
don't pick that up,
No, they
which is
don't.
just amazing to me.
Well, they don't pick up very much. I mean, they're not. They still. It was very recently that they even like admitted any wrongdoing, right? And even when, and then I love this is I love how you pick the text apart, because you talked about how foolish they are to even think this man's going to take us as slaves and he's going to steal our donkeys.
Well,
What in
that-
the world would he have use for any
Well,
of that
that's
stuff?
that's the effect of sin on your judgment. You just start having goofy judgment, goofy ideas. I read so much, I can't keep up with what I read that either this morning or Saturday morning out of the UK Daily Mail it was talking about a celebrity and their lifestyle, and then talking about everything that they've done, all the poor judgments they've made. And that's all I could think about was, well, sure, because that's what sin does to your
Oh yeah.
thinking process, your planning process, your judgment. All of those things are affected by sin in your life.
Yeah. So you've
Now,
got,
these were not dumb guys.
I don't think they
These
were.
guys had, in fact, I'll give you a little insight. When, you know, Joseph is going to have his steward plant his cup
Right.
in Benjamin's bag.
It's a big deal.
And as they leave, they think, oh, we've gotten off. We've got everything we want. We've got all the brothers. We're going back home. And the steward is following them, overtakes them, and then tells them, hey, guys, you hold up. Somebody has stolen, you know, the vizier's golden goblet. And they find it in Benjamin's bag. And when they get back there, or when they say to the steward, hey, why do we need, we bought all this gold down to you. There's much more where that came from. We're not, you know, paupers. We
Right.
are pretty wealthy people.
Yeah, for sure.
We've got flocks, we've got herds, we've got gold, we've got silver, we've got servants, all of these things that made for wealthy people in that day. And they were just kind of saying, look, we don't need your old gold cup. We got plenty of gold of our own. So these were not dumb bunnies. These were pretty shrewd, sharp, we would say businessmen.
What do you make of Joseph sort of doing that? Like he's doing so many bait and switch, and then they give him some slack, then reel him in, and then it just why is he doing that? Is he justified in doing?
Well,
Is he righteous in doing that?
I'm gonna pull all of that together.
Okay.
He does it for a reason, and I think it will make a lot of sense Sunday when I start into it, because you'll say, oh, I can figure this out now. I've got this now.
Wow, that's a pretty good preview.
So that's what I'm going to do Sunday.
All right. Well, I'm not
I
going to
will
ask.
answer all of your questions Sunday. I'm having somebody from a 770. I
Too
get
bad
more.
it's not
I get
7.
more weird stuff.
I wish it wasn't 777 giving you a call.
Oh,
That would have.
yeah.
That's
I would've had to
better.
answer that.
It would have either been heaven or Las Vegas. It's just
Is that
all to know.
Las Vegas?
Oh,
is?
I don't know.
Oh.
No, I'm sure they've tried to get it. I'm sure Nevada's tried to get the
I would imagine
777
that would
area
be.
code. They're trying to figure that out. So you made any New Year's resolutions? What's
No.
going to be coming? No? Do you never
No,
do
but
that?
I do know a couple of things. You know, one thing is I'm going to focus this year, just this is personally, and it'll come out in my preaching. I'm going to really focus on some things about Christ
Yeah.
that I've never done before, I'll preach some passages that I've preached before. There'll be new messages, because all this past week I've spent a lot of time, I've been looking at the I ams of Christ,
And John.
which is what you need to know. You know,
Yeah.
and this all comes from a conversation with my youngest son, who said, Daddy, why don't you just look at Christ and how he dealt with people? So I got to thinking about that, and I thought, well, how do I preach that, or what do I do? And so I'm going to look at the I am, as far as I know right now, the I ams, which is the Christ you need to know. The I wills. I've never thought about this.
Oh.
There's 7 I wills. I will never leave you or forsake you. I will
Send a helper for you.
I will send a helper for you. You've got these I wills of Christ. That's the Christ you want to know.
Yes.
And then I'm going to deal with what I studied every morning as we were off, just the two of us on this cruise, just Deb and myself, not the grandkids.
Yeah.
Other people were on the boat, but I got up early, 4:30, 5 o'clock, and I was out there studying this, as well as writing yesterday's sermon. The Christ you really have not thought about,
Okay.
or don't want to think about.
Who's that?
Well, that's the Christ that really comes in and...
Is this the second coming Christ?
no,
Oh,
this is the confrontations
Oh, yeah.
of Christ.
Okay.
And his confrontations, the funny thing about this, not with the woman caught in adultery,
Right.
or not with the woman at the well, as loose morally as
Right.
these women are,
with the
and the guys too. I'm not just saying
It's
that
with the
about women.
religious leaders.
Yes. Yes. And the fact of the matter is, the Pharisees would have held to the doctrines that Christ held to.
It's fascinating.
It's really, and he pronounces these woes on them.
I know.
And I don't want to say this and put a bad thought in somebody, he messes with their minds. He really does. There's just some things when he heals the guy, when they let the guy down, the paralytic down in front of him, this guy's body has been atrophied
Yeah.
for years, obviously. And he knows the thinking of
He
these.
reads their
Yeah,
minds,
he
yeah.
reads their minds. And so he really starts messing with their minds, which is easier, to say your sins are forgiven or get up and walk.
Yeah,
Because
both.
for that guy to get up and walk, you've had muscles that have atrophied. You've had bones that have most likely been
Dissolved.
bent.
Right. They're misshapen.
All of this because of whatever it was. And that would have had to have taken place in a
front of him.
millisecond.
But as amazing as that is, the point is it's more amazing that his sins are forgiven.
Yeah. Well, that's the hope. Jesus says, I can tell him to get up and walk. That's nothing.
Yeah.
Now, to forgive him of his sins,
Yeah.
that's going to take my life. And you're the guys that are going to set that thing up.
You just need to start this series this Sunday. We'll just leave Joe.
Well, that's kind of interesting. I want
You
to
gotta
do
do
a
it.
lot more study on that.
Spend a whole
before
year
I-
on it, Pastor. That's
Well,
what I think that's what
I've
we want.
thought, there are the 7 I ams. I may combine a couple of those, and then the I wills. Then there's the interesting part, the 5 I wills of Satan that come out of the Old Testament.
Interesting.
But anyway, there we go. We've talked about all this year.
So you don't have a New Year's resolution, but you've got a New Year's plan
Yeah, that's
for the things you want
that's
to cover.
kind of the direction of what. And then reading. The last 2 years, I don't know why, I have devoted a lot of my reading to
British history.
British history.
Yep.
And I just started the book on Henry VIII last night.
Oh, which one?
Henry VIII. It was written by Allison Ward,
Okay.
I think her name was, back in 2001 or something. Anyway.
Talk
it's-
about a linchpin in history. That guy's so interesting.
Yeah. And he starts out, oh my gosh, the illustration of this. He starts out, everybody thinks he is going to be, his father was so full of avarice and greed that nobody really mourned his death, Henry Henry VII. And they see him as a man who is going to bring in a golden age, that he is more concerned about everybody else than himself. And as he grows into being king, he becomes this, overbearing, mean, avaricious, heap all of this stuff on me kind of guy. Just how his life just changes from what everybody perceived him to be at the beginning and what he actually becomes.
And then along the way,
Yeah.
somehow starts. The
He was a
English
brilliant guy
Reformation.
as well. He very well educated, very much a Renaissance man, you
Yes,
would say.
for sure.
Musically, poetry, you know, manners, religion, theology. It's pretty interesting what he's done theologically, or what he did theologically.
Oh yeah, with the English Reformation.
Yes.
Oh yeah, it's fascinating
And
stuff.
things that he wrote and all.
So you're going to keep going with the British history. You're
I
getting
think
like an
so.
honorary doctorate in British history. That's what you're
Oh, that
doing
would be
along the way.
nice.
You
Yeah.
can. I'll let you do a presentation here every week if you want to.
Nah.
No. Okay.
No, I just don't know why I'm on it. I'm interested in it, but I
And
am.
so
And there's a
am-
brand new book out on Richard the Lionhearted, too. They took his journals that he wrote, and from that they have pieced together the story of his life.
Really?
Yeah, and that's just out. I'm thinking about getting that and reading that, but anyway.
So I know you're on Facebook now occasionally. You've seen how everybody's posting like how many pages and stuff that they read last year.
Did you see?
Everybody's-
Hey, you!
Yes. Dawn
I saw-
and
I saw-
Joanna and Hannah Braswell.
I was just stunned.
Yes.
And I don't mean that in a negative way. I just in a very positive,
She can
good,
read, Pastor.
great way.
It's
I'm a big fan of audiobooks.
Is that what you
I'm a
do?
big fan of audiobooks on double speed.
So
Are you
the
serious?
pages is a little bit of a
And
misnomer.
trust me, you would get, if you don't do it, you would get used to it. Because I used to hear Dawn, and I'd be like, how are you even? You just get used to it. Like
Yeah.
if you listen to it more slow.
Now, are you an
it's
audio learner?
A little bit of both. I mean, I'm usually reading a couple of physical copies and listening to
Yeah.
a couple at the same time.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think I've listened to 1.5 books on audiobooks.
Oh.
One I listened on the way home from South Carolina back to Florida. One time I listened to the whole, and it was the autobiography of Steve Martin,
Oh, yeah.
which I found that
Born
fascinating.
Standing Up.
Yeah, that. And I listened to half of what's the guy? I can't think of his name. Great history writer. I love everything he writes on Grant. I listened to half of that, and I thought,
Is it Metaxas?
no, not Eric Metaxas. Oh gosh, I can't. I'll think of it. In a minute.
Isaacson? No? Okay.
But anyway,
Doing my best.
I went back. I got the copy.
Some genres are more conducive to it.
Yeah,
than others,
yeah.
For sure.
But I was in school with guys that said, "Can we take this because we are better at audio learning than?" Now I'm better if I read it, and I write it, and I write something down. It kind of imprints it in my mind.
Yeah.
That's the way I do my sermons. I write all my sermons myself, and I type them out with these two
Yes.
fingers.
We need to get a video of you do. You've told me this multiple times. So you never learned touch typing. You're still chicken picking?
Yeah, that's exactly what I do.
That is
But
amazing.
in doing that, it just kind of gets in my,
It
and
gets
I'd
in there,
like
yeah.
to do it the week that I'm going to preach it. I don't like to do it, I'm not working 3 weeks ahead.
I'm not going to change your creative process at all because you already, I think you've perfected it by now. But I started doing something that's really interesting.
Okay,
I type up a message,
yeah.
and then you can use an AI voice to read you the message. And you can just listen. It's almost like you've typed up a podcast and you can just listen to it and sort of internalize it more that way.
That's interesting.
It's really interesting. I mean, for me, just being an audio guy, it's helped a lot. But I didn't even know that was possible until recently.
I've never thought about that.
My brother-in-law is working on is he doing a PhD? No, he's doing a doctorate as well. And he was the one that showed it to me, so I thought that was pretty cool.
That's pretty interesting. I think somebody reading it in a different, I can't stand to listen to myself. My best friend, Rick Bird, who, great expositor, really.
But you can't stand to listen to him either?
No, he would every morning get his sermon from the day before, and he would go through it, and listen, which they tell you to, but I can't stand to listen to myself.
Well, this is the next step. So, Jared, we need to get on this. We need to get an AI voice of Pastor made immediately.
You know that's me, I'm pastor of
We
AI.
need to get Jared's still pastor of AI,
Hey,
self-proclaimed.
that sermon I brought for yesterday, all AI.
It was really good.
Is
I
that
really
right?
liked it.
It took me about 4 hours, but because when you do the AI stuff,
A lot of times you get
it was
weird,
hard,
yeah.
But I actually used scripture I went to Joe's like the.
So you
dream.
just typed in the scripture in the AI
I had
prompt,
to
and
get descriptive, but I type in the verse, or I paste the verse.
that's
Of
fascinating.
the dream, and then I would describe the dream.
Is
and
that
then it
right?
would- Yeah.
That's
No,
really-
I didn't
that's really
see
cool.
it because I thought it was the same thing that had, you know, I
doing
normally
a
for
new
the
one.
first time I always stop and look at it
You need
because
to
I'm
watch it this
interested,
week.
you know, in what I need to see that.
I'll show it. I mean, it's quick. It's,
I didn't.
we'll
I
watch it
did
on-
not. I did not see it. Now I'm interested in that because of AI. Now
Yeah.
you know they're saying there are a lot of guys who are just putting in text and AI is spitting them out a sermon.
Yeah.
Number one, that is what I live to do. I live to do my own.
Oh yeah, you want to do your own.
Yes, I want to do that. That's what I love.
I'll throw it up.
That's what I don't get paid for that.
Yeah.
It's quick. You'll miss it. It's 15 seconds, so it's real short, but. So that's
Having
him.
the dreams, the
Yeah.
sun, moon, and stars. It's
the
him
well,
coming out of the well.
blood, the vine, the bread, Pharaoh dreaming, the cows, the wheat, the grain.
That was the only part I didn't ever understand was Pharaoh dreaming. Like, what was
Wow,
going
that's
on?
pretty
It was
fascinating.
just, that was the only, I tried so many times with that
Yeah.
one of like Pharaoh
Yeah.
having dreams, and they like portray like almost in a Disney-esque way of like dream, and I could have just got Pharaoh asleep, but then I didn't want to make him look like he was dead, and I just it was so
See,
quick
this
where I was like,
this
you
is
know
the
what?
next Ronnie Howard
Yeah.
right here,
You
Hollywood.
need to.
The next Ronnie
But
Howard.
maybe that's
It all
something we
comes
do
back
for
to Andy
Christmas
Griffith with
next
you.
year. You know, there's so many. what
The
they
next
got
Steven
answers
Spielberg.
here. Anyways,
Yeah, maybe.
Well,
we
that's
should-
great. That's great. That's fascinating to me how that thing does that.
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, the AI stuff. Yeah, I'm sorry that so many guys are using that to like write their messages.
Well, they're beginning to, you know,
It's
which to
gonna
me
keep
is, why are you even in the ministry? Man, if you're not yourself ready to dig into the Word and really just, you know, confront it and let it confront you and all of that,
You know what?
Why are
It's,
you even in the
You know what?
ministry?
It's amazing though is doing like a really really rough draft and just say, hey, clean this up for me real quick,
Yeah.
and then it'll
I don't
be
believe I could do that either.
just let it clean up a rough draft
Mm-hmm.
with like punctuation and stuff.
Well, and if it did the grammar, the punctuation, that's okay. But, you know, I don't know. I know. I'm old school.
We'll
and a
we'll
stick in the
continue our
mud and-
ethical. Pastor loves ethics, so we'll continue our ethical discussion on AI next week, and look forward to Pastor's message. We've got the Joseph reveal coming up. Not to mention, midweek is starting up.
Oh yeah,
This
that's
Wednesday
going to be
night.
really good. Barry is going to do this series on heaven and hell.
We're starting with prayer night tonight.
Yeah,
Though.
prayer night, Wednesday night.
Right.
Wednesday night. Yeah.
Did I say tonight?
Yes.
Yes, you did. So you're halfway through the week.
I'm living in
That's
all
how good
time.
you are.
Yes.
He's so far ahead of us.
Just trying to be more Christ-like, omnipresence, working
Were
on
you
it.
in the Eastern time zone when the new year rang in? Is that
I was.
I was
Yes.
too. See, we're both an hour ahead of
It was
everybody.
fun being a.
I was
we,
in the Caribbean, so I was an hour ahead of y'all.
We wanted to celebrate. We wanted to be able to celebrate the New Year's with the kids, so we decided to celebrate New Year's on London time, which was 7 p.m. for us. So it was great. So
Did you really? That's a great idea.
it was fun, and then we got to go to bed at a normal
Because
time.
we were on the ship, and Debbie said, "Oh, are we going to stay up to midnight?" I said, hey, "Baby, you can. I'm
Yeah.
going to bed."
Did
I'll
you
see you in the
did you
morning.
get out the finest sparkling cider?
No,
As,
I think we had a bottle of water.
I
in
thought
the-
you were going
in
to
the
say you had a
room.
bottle of cough syrup.
Yeah, no.
Been fun talking with you today, Pastor. Say goodbye.
Goodbye, Pastor.
I should do 2,025 kicks.